Okay, here we are on day 4, Facebook campaign analysis. So if you remember from yesterday what I said, you probably want to wait until you turn your ads on so that you know what kind of stats and data to look for, so you can follow it and make any decisions along the way, or at least when you've ended a good run. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some other clients' data that I'm using. I'm going to have to blur out most of the stuff so to protect their privacy, but you can just see the numbers, and that's fine. You'll get the idea, and you shouldn't have any problems. So let's jump over to a client's account, and I'll show you what you can look for when you run your campaigns. All right, so here, if you're just starting, let's say you're up here. If you're not already in the Ads Manager, just click up here until you get to the Ads Manager, okay? And then you'll probably want to select whatever date range you just ran to see those stats. So I'm just going to leave this on the last 30 days for me. And you'll probably be on the Campaigns tab. So just select whatever campaign you've got, or if you've got multiple, let's just look at one at a time. So I am going to select one of these. Okay, this should work pretty well. All right, so first off, since we're gathering leads, that you should see in this column a certain number of leads in the results column. If you were just driving traffic, you would see something like link clicks or something like that. But in this case, you should see some leads, or if you happen to see zeros, we'll discuss that in a minute. What I like to do is pick this drop-down menu here and just go to Performance and Clicks. So you can obviously see there's a lot of different stuff you can view, but this is going to be one that's probably most important to you. So select that. And that's just going to populate a few extra things that we will look at as we go. So let's sort. So to sort each column, you just click the top of it, and I like to get the whatever one has my metric that I'm looking at on the top. It's just helpful. So this particular campaign had 49 leads in the last 30 days. Now, before I look at any charts or anything, I just kind of want to assess what's going on. And so the next number that I tend to look at is how much did it cost me per lead. So it's going to depend again on your industry. If you're, up above $8, $9, $10 for any industry, that's pretty expensive. So you want to definitely think about what you're doing. If you're way down to like $1 or less or $2, you're doing really well. Anything in between is kind of going to be a judgment game, bit of a judgment game that I'm going to show you. So this is just the total amount that you spent during whatever time frame you've selected. So that'll change, but it's a good way to track how much you've spent. And then we won't worry about scheduling right now, but you can schedule your ads to run during certain times. That's back in the ad setup like we saw yesterday. So impressions, that's the number of times your ad was shown to someone. And we'll talk about that a little bit. So the next one after how much it cost me and how much I spent total and how many leads I got. Next thing that's going to be probably the next most important thing that I like to look at is the click-through rate. So CTR, that stands for click-through rate. So your click-through rate is the number of clicks divided by impressions. Okay, so it says right there, if I hover over it, the percentage of times people saw your ad and performed a click. So regardless, why this is important is a higher click-through rate is always better than a lower click-through rate. And it can tell us a lot of things. So for instance, this ad, so each row is, in this case, one ad set. So we're just looking at ad sets right now. Each row is an ad set. Okay, so this ad set had a click-through rate of 4.25. A good measurement for any campaign in any industry goes something like this. If you've got a 1% click-through rate, you're not doing so well. If you've got a 2% click-through rate, that's pretty average and pretty good across all industries. It'll vary a little bit, but if you're hitting a solid 2% plus, you're doing all right. If you've got a 3%, you're doing really, really well. If you're doing higher than that, then you're just cooking along. And if you're doing, let's say, less than 1%, point something percent, that's probably, I would say that's considered pretty bad no matter what industry you're in. One thing to keep in mind is, let's say you see a click-through rate that's 20% and you go, wow, I'm doing great. Well, you may have only had a few clicks and a few impressions. So that's not statistically significant. So I like to consider anything that's above 100 clicks and whatever that click-through rate is to be kind of a benchmark or a guideline as to what is actually working well. So if I were just to scan down this column, I would say, okay, this ad set only has a 1.73. It's not doing so well. I got to do something with that, and we're going to talk about that. So keep that in mind. The other thing that click-through rate tells us is how people like the ad. So even though let's say you have a really good click-through rate, but you look back here and you just aren't getting enough, you aren't getting any leads. So you might be going, well, what's going on? Well, it means they like your ad a lot. It means you've written a good headline, you've got a good picture, you've got good text, but by the time they make it to your landing page, they don't like what they see on the landing page. So that means you have a real disconnect between your ad and your landing page. Because if you had a connection, let's say your ad promised this amazing lead magnet, and then you get to your page and it's not that amazing lead magnet, they're going to go, oh, this ad didn't promise what I wanted, so I'm just going to back out and go away. So if you're seeing high click-through rates, but you're not seeing many conversions, you need to try to figure out a way to line up your ad with your landing page. So just put a pin in that because I'm going to talk about that in more detail because that's a little more involved. Let's stick on metrics. So CPC is another interesting one to look at. It's your cost per click. And so again, a high cost per click is not good. A low cost per click is good. This is low because a lot of people are clicking through after a lot of people viewing it. And you can look into these metrics and how they're calculated on your own. It's not super important at this point, but you should probably examine that at some point as you get more data to work with so you better understand these, but I don't want to bore you with the math. So again, and one little note is I like to look at any of the columns that say all, because Facebook collects a lot of data. So this is the cost per click of just the link clicks. So any links within your ad, slightly different than the overall CPC. So just to keep things simple and to get a better grasp of what your total campaign is doing, just any of the columns that say all, just pay attention to those. Clicks all, CTR all, and that'll just keep you from getting overwhelmed with data. So let's dig in a little bit to look at an actual ad. So I'm just going to click on one of these ad sets and scroll back here so we can look at the front. So I have 1, 2, 3 ads that ran, not all at the same time, but in this same ad set. So why would I do that? Why would I run multiple ads against each other in the same ad set? Well, it's because I want to test variations of the same ad at the same time, so that some people will get this first ad, some people will get the next ad, some people will get the third ad, and Facebook will engineer things to say, all right, people are responding to this first one really well. I'm going to slow down traffic on these other two and pick up traffic on this one so that I can get more leads. And so that proves to me that whatever text or pictures that I had on these second ones didn't work so well. So I can eliminate those and then take this one, make a copy of it, and test that with a slight variation. So hang on to that for a second, so we'll get into that. But one of the important things here to mention related to that is the reason I had you choose leads at the beginning instead of just getting traffic is because let's say you just chose traffic. Well, all Facebook is going to do is go out there and get you a bunch of clicks and say, all right, I got you 100 clicks to your website. I did my job, but didn't I do great? Well, no, because you didn't get leads is what I wanted. So by telling Facebook, get me leads, it's going to go out and try to get people who are likely to convert. So at the beginning, it's not going to know who that is. So it's just going to try based on your audience. And then it's going to start to get a few leads. And let's say it's this first ad again. And now it's going to say, all right, I'm going to go get people that are very similar to the people that did convert and serve your ad more to them, so it's more likely that they'll convert. So think of Facebook, the Facebook algorithm that's doing this is like a good dog that's going to go, fetch you something good. It's going to, once it finds that you like these leads, it's going to go out and try to fetch you all the leads it can. That's its only job, and that's what it really wants to do. And that's going to improve your cost per result, in this case your cost per lead. That's going to improve your click-through rate. It's going to improve all your metrics. So that's why we had you choose leads. It's going to be more effective and cheaper in the long run. Okay, so now let's see if there's any other metrics that are really important. And they're all important in their own way. I wouldn't worry about button clicks. I don't care about that. And you can select this and you can customize columns, and then you can save that view. So I already have one selected here that I have previously saved. It's got a few things. So you can look at like how people are reacting. I don't put a lot of weight into this for paid advertisements like we're doing here. This can be valuable for just normal social posts. But I still like to look at them to see, all right, are people just engaging at all? So let's say I'm not making many leads. This can be an indicator that, wow, they're clicking a lot on this ad, but they're doing something different with this ad below it for some reason. That can just be kind of an indicator, but I don't put a lot of stock in that. Again, same thing with people taking action. So click-through rate, impressions, let's see how many clicks I've got. My CPC, if it's getting really expensive, I'm doing something wrong. So what happens? Let's say you just run. All right. Well, instead of theoretical, let's go over to our campaign we built yesterday. Okay, so I still got it paused from yesterday. I'm just going to click into it, and then click into that ad set. So even though there's no data here, we saw that other data, what it looked like, and so I'm just going to, we're just going to pretend a couple scenarios here. So remember, let's say I'm not getting any leads, but I'm getting a good click-through rate. Where is that at? So CTR all, let's say I'm getting a 4%. So that tells me what? That tells me my ad is really good, but my landing page is not so good. So I can do one of two things. I can go to my landing page, our lead funnel page that we built, and I can change something like the headline to better match what the headline of my ad is. So what do we have here? So I just click Edit to open that. I'm just going to click over here to Desktop View. So I have Download Your Free Guide to Writing Better Ads, or How to Write Better Ads. So I don't know which portion exactly did well at this stage, but I could go to my landing page in ClickFunnels and change the header to match or be very similar to this. So the reason I would do that is so that it matches up better with the user's expectations. So they expect to see something about how to write better ads or downloading a free guide, and when they land on my page and it says the same thing, they're going to be more likely to convert. Okay, so let's say, so that's one option, and if you choose that option, I would really only try one thing, maybe two things, so don't change too many things in your landing page, because you want to do these one test at a time. You want to change one element at a time, because if I say, wow, they like my ad but they hate my page, it could mean that your page is just bad, maybe. But you don't know that for sure, so the smarter thing to do is to just test one variable at a time to see if you can whittle it down to what is working and what isn't. So in this case, the headline of your landing page will be the go-to thing that I would try first. Probably before I did that though, I would probably, if I was getting no leads but good click-through rate, I'd probably make a copy of this ad, maybe two. So let's say I pause this ad but make a copy of it twice. So there are two ads. Let's just do that. So I would click, so I've got it check marked here, so I'm going to click duplicate. Let's get rid of this. So it's keeping, you can pretty much just keep everything here and just click duplicate. So you see it's made a copy here. So I'm just going to call this version 2, and I want to line, I'm going to kind of do the reverse of what I just said about the landing page. Instead, I'm going to change my headline to match what my landing page actually says. So we didn't actually solidify a headline. Let's pretend that this is the headline that's on my landing page. So I'm going to line that up to match. And that's the only thing I'm going to change. Okay, so everything else should be normal. It's worth a check just to make sure. Click publish down here. And you can see up here it's doing its thing. There we go. So I'm just going to close this. And if your campaign was on over here, it would automatically go on. So what you could also do is if you just don't want to wait, you can make another duplicate. Okay. And let's say you want to redo this ad. So I'm not going to take you through redoing the ad, but let's say I take out this text, or I write text that's a little more congruent with my landing page, and try that. So again, I'm leaving this original text alone, all this original text, original background picture, but the writing would be different. So then I would have 3 ads running. Wait, sorry, let's publish that. So when I click these live, I would have 3 ads running against each other. So if you just had 2, it would be an A-B test. You may have heard of that. So in this case, it would be A-B-C test. And maybe I would pause my first one because it just didn't do well. So let's do that like we actually would. So just pause that. You don't have to delete it because it's useful to keep your stats around so you can see the history of what happened. So in this case, you'd have 2 ads, an A and a B. And then you would run these, and then you'd come back, and one of them is probably going to do better than the other, and probably better than your original that you ran. And then once that wins, you could say, all right, now I'm going to go in, pause this one, make a copy of the winning one, and maybe try a totally different image or a totally different ad. Or maybe you've gotten comfortable with ClickFunnels enough that you want to make a copy of your original landing page and do something quite a bit different. Okay, so I think you kind of understand what I'm doing here is I'm just testing 1 or 2 ads against each other at any given time. I'm only changing one variable at a time. So as more data comes in, you're going to start to learn, all right, this headline is doing fantastic on my ad. It kills it every time. It's got the most leads. It's got the most click-through. It's got the highest click-through rate. It's doing great. Or maybe you've tried all your options on the ad side, and you just got to change up your landing page. Maybe you've won it in the sense that you've got this great ad, but you're just not making conversions. You got to go check your landing page, and you need to probably reshape something there. But you can do the same idea on your landing page, like I just talked about. Just change one element. Maybe it's the picture that you've got of your lead magnet. Maybe it's the headline again. Usually it's headlines and text and bullet points and things like that that are going to be more effective on your landing page than just pictures or something like that, unless your picture is really unattractive for some reason. So what else can we talk about here? Let's go back here. So we talked about A/B testing. So I don't want to get too far more into depth. I think on day 6. Yeah, we're going to talk about A/B testing your funnel, which is another layer of A/B testing, but I don't want to confuse you right now. This is plenty for you to go on to run your ad for a week or longer, depending on how much money you're comfortable spending. And if at any given time, if it's 3 days in and you've spent $30 and haven't got a single lead, one, go do a test on your landing page. Make sure that the leads are still working. They're going into your Aweber account just fine. If they're still just fine, and here's a good way to test it too. You can just go in here and grab the actual link that you've got. Just copy that link, paste it in a browser, just like this. Just so you know you've got the same page that Facebook has. Fill out the form as a pretend user, see if it goes into your Aweber account. If it makes it there just fine and you get your autoresponder, then it should be just fine. Double check your Facebook conversion code to make sure that your pixel is in place. Let's see if so yeah, see over here, we've got our page view, and check your thank you page to make sure that it says lead up here. If those things are all in place, you know that's not a technical issue, then you can just keep trying different ads. And if these little variations won't do, well, actually let me back up. Before I would even probably do these little variations, if your ad is not doing well, for any metric, like it's getting poor click-through rate, nobody's clicking on it in general, so you go over here and you see clicks and it's just really low, but you can see that a lot of people are seeing it, so they just hate your ad. So you might want to try a completely radically different approach. So you would make a duplicate, is probably the easiest way. Try an entirely different picture. Try one without text. I've tried things like swapping this top text with this bottom text to see if people respond better that way. And it may sound kind of like a guessing game, and it kind of is at the front, but you're going to do it systematically as you go. You're not just guessing at every stage. You're kind of throwing a lot at the wall at the very beginning, because you don't know if people are going to respond to a crazy picture or a serious picture or a colorful picture or one with people, one without people, a really grabbing headline or a much more subtle headline. You've just got to try all that stuff out to begin with. It's a little bit painful, but that's just what you have to do. That's what all marketers do. They take their best foot forward, as best guess they can, and then they try something different. So if you're starting out, you might try that one ad that we created, and if you're eager, you can, well, if you just want to see how that runs, that's fine, let that run by itself. You can also just create another ad and create, like I said, a totally radically different ad to test against it. So when these two run together, you can get a better sense of, wow, this crazy one with the crazy picture got so many link clicks but nobody converted. That's going to tell you something. Where this one, maybe you didn't get a lot of click-through and a lot of clicks, but you did get a few leads. So you're connecting with your audience. So then you can start removing the old one and copying the winning one and adjusting variables as you go. Okay, so I think we've touched on everything that's worth mentioning. One thing that I forgot to do yesterday when we set up our account, it's not a big deal, but you probably are wondering. So if you'll notice, like if I go over here to our ads, click edit, and then you'll notice that here under your identity, this Lead Consultants Inc. page, it kind of has this generic little flag. You probably want to put a little icon in there so it looks a little more professional. So to get there, up here in the top, click the drop-down menu, and then you can go down to All Tools, all the way over here to Business Settings. Then over here where it says Pages, and you see there's my Lead Consultants Inc. pages. I'm just going to click this little arrow button to get into that. Here you see we just set this up really quick because I just wanted to keep you moving forward. But you should take a little bit of time to add a cover here and then add a little picture here. So this little picture where this little flag was, that's where I was showing you is is missing. So I'm just going to select something easy here. Let's go to upload photo. Okay, I'm just going to pick one of these here, these little icons I've got. Okay, well this one's a little too small, but just get one that's a little bit bigger. Just play with it a little bit, and there's instructions if you want to find out the exact dimensions. So I don't want to say it's not important, but I'm kind of brushing it off because our main focus is ads. Very, very few people are ever going to come look at this. But as your business grows, you'll want to make this a proper presence, but it's outside the scope of what we're trying to do here. So that's why I'm just kind of brushing it off a little bit, because I've built plenty of these, and that's just been my experiences. No one really comes here. It's just to give you that look and feel that in your ads that you've got a real presence. So see, that doesn't look so bad. So let's go back here, and we'll go back to our ads manager. And it may not have updated. It may take a little bit of time, but let's just take a quick look and look at our ads. Edit. See, there it is. It uploaded there, so you see that looks a lot more professional when someone sees your ad, that you look like a real page, because you are a real page, you're a real business. So that just really completes the picture, the ad. Okay, so that's it for day 4, understanding your stats and doing A/B testing. So now I hope you're going to go run your ads and get some real data, make any adjustments you need, do that as long as you need to. Then tomorrow, while those are running, we're going to set up your email nurturing series. Again, if you're not comfortable letting your ads run without your email nurturing, that's fine, because some people are going to take a long time to write this, and you want to have something to give your leads right away. So it's probably best, if you're not comfortable with the whole process yet, just leave your ads on pause and just wait till tomorrow till we write up your email so you can see the whole picture end to end. And then when we get to day 6, it's about tweaking that big picture. Okay? I'll see you tomorrow for your email nurturing series.